My parents had gotten divorced. I'd lived with my mom. She got into drugs and alcohol. And when I was 15, she tried to kill herself in front of me.
Wow.
When that happened, I just completely shut down. Until I was 19, I got out of the house, and then I was just mad. So I started drinking, and then I started doing drugs, and it turned into this whole cycle. And that's what got me to get arrested 6 times in 18 months.
Wow.
Leila Hormozi, co-founder of Gym Launch, which sold for $50 million.
She knows how to scale and grow companies. That's her expertise. So Leila Hormozi, welcome to the show.
I was 29 when we sold our business. 29, and I already had a multi-$100 million net worth. What I've had to do in order to keep winning is I've had to learn to love the process of being uncomfortable. There's so many things we think are these big things that we have to confront in life. They actually only take a very small period of time. But we make it out to be like this big thing because we've been running from it for so long.
When you have losses and wins and negative thoughts creep up, how do you start to reframe those negative thoughts to actually fuel you for success in the future rather than limit you?
I try to...
Welcome back to the School of Greatness. Very excited about the guest that we have today, Leila Hormozi. She opens up about her journey from being arrested as a teenager to an extremely successful executive, revealing how she learned to channel her obsessive nature into building extraordinary companies. But something is different about Leila in this episode from all the content I've seen her share before. She really opens up in a raw and vulnerable way, and a few key moments that I want you to pay attention to. And I want you to share below in the comments your biggest takeaway and what you notice from Leila when she starts to open up. What makes this conversation special is her vulnerable exploration of the mental and emotional skills that drive true success. So if you're looking to improve in these areas of your life, like this video, share it with 1 or 2 friends that you want to see succeed as well. And make sure to click the subscription button to our YouTube channel. We've got 12 years of content with some of the biggest celebrities, influencers, business leaders on the planet. Make sure to click subscribe right now so you can stay up to date on the latest and greatest here on the School of Greatness. And if you're looking to create new skills and leverage growing your financial abundance in a new way, make sure to get my new book, Make Money Easy. This is all about the tools on how to create the inner game, the inner relationship to creating financial abundance in your life. And so much wisdom is in this book from 12 years of interviewing some of the richest and wealthiest people in the world. Make sure to get Make Money Easy. The link is below. And without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness. Very excited about our guest. We have the inspiring, incredible business leader, Leila Hormozi. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We met a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you and your husband, Alex, just sold a company, and you were looking to launch acquisitions.com.
Yeah.
What's the thing that you have now that your 20-year-old self didn't have?
Emotional regulation?
You didn't have that when you were in your 20s, teens?
No.
What did it look like back then? Because didn't I read you went to jail or a bunch of times and had a really chaotic upbringing?
So I graduated high school and I went to college, and I think it was, if we rewind back further, my parents had gotten divorced. I'd lived with my mom. She got into drugs and alcohol. Ended up being like a very bad environment for a kid. And so, when I was 15, she tried to kill herself in front of me. I kind of just shut down after that moment until I was 19. I just went numb. I remember actually. Because I'd been this constant state of anxiety, perpetual, always heightened anxiety in my body. And I'd lost 20% of my body weight or something. I remember it was just very, very stressed all the time.
Was this before she attempted to kill herself?
Constantly just stressed because she was drinking. She'd be gone for a week at a time. I wouldn't know where she was, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want anyone to call, whatever that.
Child services
or whatever.
So this is when you're 13 through 15?
9 to 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
She'd be gone for a week at a time?
Yeah. And so...
And your parents were divorced before then?
They got divorced. They separated when I was 9.
Gotcha.
And so then...
So you were with your mom alone most of the time then?
Correct. Wow. Yeah. And she'd been a great mom before that. But when that happened, I just completely shut down. And the way that I was able to do anything was just, I was numb. It was like, I wasn't angry. I also wasn't happy. I was just like this.
Flat.
Yeah. Until I was 19, I got out of the house. And then I was just mad. And I didn't know how to deal with that anger. So I started drinking, and then I started doing drugs, and it turned into this whole cycle. And then I started getting arrested because I was blacking out and I was doing drugs, and I don't even know what I did half the time. And that's what got me to get arrested 6 times in 18 months.
Wow.
I know. It was just like
6 times.
6 times. Yeah, you would think the 4th.
The 2nd and 1st.
Yeah, I mean, it was not enough.
Wow. What is that like, getting arrested 6 times?
Humiliating.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I was very ashamed, but I didn't know how to stop.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never been arrested. I hope it never happens, because I just don't know what state you need to be in to keep getting arrested. So I can only assume that you were in a very low state at that time.
When you feel like crap all the time, you just feel like crap again when you get arrested. It's not very different.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So if now I were to get arrested, it would feel awful because it's such a contrast.
Yeah, yeah.
But
you're like, well, this is my life anyways, so whatever.
My life sucks, so what does it matter?
Wow.
Yeah. So during that time, what I recognized after some time is that I was at odds with my emotions. And I think what it was is that I tried so hard to never feel the way I had felt when I had been in that house with my mother, that first I disconnected from my emotions. And then in my young 20s, I was at odds with them. Meaning I would fight anxiety. I would fight depression. I would fight sadness. I would fight frustration. Like, I didn't want it. I wanted to get rid of it. And it wasn't until I was probably just in the last 6-7 years that I was like, I can take them with me. They're not bad. And I started engaging with them in a healthy way.
Really?
And just changing my relationship with them rather than trying to stuff them down, suppress them, get rid of them. Yeah, exactly.
So what would it look like, you know, if you're feeling anxious now versus anxious back then? How does that look? Are you having a conversation with yourself? Are you talking to the anxiety part of you? Did you used to shame yourself when that happened? Like, what are you doing now versus then that allows you to feel more joyful and peaceful versus stressful and crappy?
Well, it's actually funny because I think that when I was 19, I would feel an emotion and then I would drink or I would do drugs. Then it turned into I would work out, I would study, I would work. And so I just replaced it, which, I mean, hey, it was more
something a little more productive, but
yeah.
You still weren't addressing it though.
I wasn't addressing it. And so I still felt very anxious all the time. And I still felt very stressed. And so now, rather than the moment that I feel stressed or I feel anxious, I go into action. I say, this is my mental cues, absorption, which is like I absorb the emotion. I'm like, let it fill me up. Let me feel it. Now I don't need to indulge in it. I don't need to ruminate, but I can take 5 minutes to feel what I'm feeling. And it's not because I believe that I need to do some kind of mental rumination to get over an emotion. It's because I want to teach my body that it's nothing to be afraid of and that's nothing to run from. And that's helped me so much because I say, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes and then I'm going to go on with what my day was going to be. I'm not going to let the emotion derail me from my day because I know at the end of the day, that day helps me achieve my goals if I follow the plan.
Yeah.
You know, and so that has been the biggest change that I've made in the last decade has just been my relationship with negative emotions.
That's interesting because it sounds like first when you'd feel a negative emotion, you would react to it with a negative response.
Yeah.
Drugs, alcohol, whatever, some numbing mechanism.
Yeah.
Then you said, okay, this doesn't feel good anymore and I'm getting bad results by doing this. So let me try to do something productive when I feel stressed. So you reacted with working harder, working out, trying to eat better, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But you still felt the stress and anxiety.
Totally.
But at least there was a better result, but not better external result, but not internal result. Now you face it and you feel it and kind of reflect in the moment, give yourself a pause, and then you get back into something productive.
100%. And it's funny because the outcome, like when we built Gym Launch, first business that we ever had, I think a lot of that was still fueled off of this frenetic energy of like trying to run through
Anxious,
anxiety.
stressful, like,
Right, but it created something really cool. But it was, I remember the moment where it was like 2 years before we sold that started to shift, where I started recognizing that relationship. And then I said, I want to be able to do this in a way that makes me better, not worse. I don't want work to make me worse as a person. I don't want work to make me emotionally worse, to make me spiritually worse, to make me a worse wife. I want work to make me better. And so the only way I can do that is if every time I have a negative emotion, I look at it as an opportunity to make a better relationship with my emotions, that will transfer to all areas of my life, my relationship, my friendships, etc. And so now it's like I look at business as the biggest vehicle for my personal growth because I'm constantly facing these negative emotions. And so I get all that practice to confront them and then say, hey, I don't need to run from any of this. And that means that my life gets to expand rather than contract every time I do that.
Was there a moment in your life like where someone taught you this, or you had someone confront you or coach you or mentor you that said, hey, I see you doing these things and it's not helping, here's another approach? Or was this just an internal reflection?
Yeah, it's actually, so about a year and a half before we sold Gym Launch, our first business, it was like, there was a week where I had to run our team quarterly. I then had a full team event. I had a speaking gig I was doing, and then I had some other event. And I was lying in bed, and I remember I just felt so much anxiety. And all of a sudden, this like wave came over me, and I had a full-blown panic attack. And then I was up all night. I couldn't sleep. I was like, what's wrong with me? I haven't had a panic attack in a decade. And it wasn't like how, when I was younger, I would get panic attacks at times. Yeah. It was like, my tongue is swollen, my hands go numb, like full on, like many more symptoms than I experienced in the past. It freaked me out. And when that happened, I was like, the first thing that happened was like, what's wrong with me? Like, there's got to be something wrong with me because I don't understand. And then after about 2.5 weeks of, I reach out to different therapists and psychiatrists and doctors, and like everyone has their own opinion of, why did you have this panic attack? I reached out to a friend of mine who recommended I read a book, and the book was Control Your Anxiety Before It Controls You by Albert Ellis. And I read that book and I was like, oh my God, I don't need anybody to tell me what's wrong with me because nothing's wrong with me. Besides the fact that I think these things are so bad. And
the things in your life were bad, or certain...
The emotions that I was feeling.
You thought that they were bad.
The fact that I was so anxious about something, the fact that, like, there's nothing wrong with me for having a panic attack. There's nothing wrong if you can't sleep at night because you're anxious. There's nothing wrong, but I was labeling all those things as bad and wrong and saying I needed to make them go away.
You're like, something's wrong with me. I shouldn't have these feelings or these emotions.
Yes, because sometimes emotions are so strong, we feel like there's something physically wrong with us. And so I then said, I need to learn all this for myself. And so I started studying a lot of Albert Ellis and Stephen Hayes, their work just as behavioral psychologists. And I think I've read every book from each one of them.
Wow.
And it's really helped me learn that there's never been anything wrong with me. It's just been my response to my negative emotions that has been, I've just had a bad relationship with them most of my life. And so I had to change that. And that was when I decided, because I said, how am I going to be able to achieve my goals if, my goals do have me doing a speaking event, running a full team. Like, I want to be that person, but it freaks me the f out. And so, I had a panic attack. But I want to achieve those goals. And so that was really I would say, like, the driver behind my motivation to figure that out for myself. And ever since then, it's been a constant practice of recognizing what I'm feeling, remembering that emotions cannot hurt me, right? It's like a lot of people say, like, oh, well, you're not going to die. I'm like, I don't think most people are scared of dying. I think they're scared of feeling like they're going to die. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not scared of death. We're scared of feeling like we're going to confront death.
Yeah.
And so that was really significant for me. And it also, I would say, propelled me in the direction of learning to be more flexible and less rigid. Because also, that control it also wants to control emotions. Like my control in a business setting can be very helpful at times. Control when it comes to an emotional part of my life is not helpful because I can't control every thought and feeling that comes into my mind or my brain. And so that really taught me that being able to let go, being able to let things occur, and just remind myself that I am big enough to hold space for all of those things, and feeling them is not going to do anything. That really was probably the time in my life when I realized that. It was because lying there at night, having a panic attack over those things, being like, I'm worth multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. I've built all these things. I have all this team underneath me. Like, why am I having a panic attack right now?
Why is it, though, that some extremely successful business leaders or wealthy individuals have a lot of anxiety that they can't get rid of?
Well, I think that the more that you run from something, the bigger it becomes, right? Like, there's this quote that I love, which is, fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And so, like, the moment that you step into that puddle or into what you think is an ocean, you recognize it's a puddle. And I think that most of the time, a lot of people I meet, because I talk to thousands of entrepreneurs each month, they're running from something. But that thing, I think that they always think, I'll tell you this. So before I met Alex, I had a boyfriend.
Don't tell him.
Oh my God. And we broke up. And then after that breakup, I was really sad. And so I saw a therapist at the time. And I said, it'd been like 2.5 months. And I was like, I'm just really sad. And she's like, well, why are you so sad? I was like, well, I did hear that it takes about half the time that you've been with someone to get over someone. And she was like, I think that's stupid. And I was like, what's this therapist saying that's stupid? And I was like, okay, well, what then? And she's like, I think it takes as long as you want it to take. And I was like, okay, so what do you suggest? She's like, how about Thursday? I was like, what? Yeah, and she was like, how about you're over it by Thursday?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. She's like, well, what would somebody who's over it do? Okay, well, I would probably start going on dates. I would probably fill my time with other things. I probably wouldn't think about it so much. I'd probably do all these things to enjoy my life. And so I started doing those things. And what I recognized is that the moment I started acting like I was over it, I was over it. And I think I relate that back because I think so many things that we fear or so many things we think are these big things that we have to confront in life, they actually only take a very small period of time. But we make it out to be like this big thing because we've been running from it for so long. And so for me, I've just noticed time and time again, most of the things that I've had to confront, I might have been scared of for years, and I can get over it in a matter of hours. And I think it's the same for so many people, but the fear is so persuasive. Like it persuades you into thinking that it's going to take so long to get over it. But the reality is it doesn't. It's almost like you have to skip through the puddle versus you think you have to swim across this entire ocean.
Yeah.
And so I think that most people just, maybe they don't have the information, or maybe they don't take the time because they're so busy in the business to step out and say, what are these things that are constraining me from growing my business even bigger? Because for me, I look at it and I'm like, if there's anything taking my attention, even if it's not business related, I need to handle it. So whatever takes the most amount of mind share for me,
Face it.
I need to face that no matter what it has to do with. It could have to do with my family, friends, whatever. And so though that doesn't have to do with business, that's also how I've known how to grow my business, is I have to constantly clear. I say it like I'm clearing almost, like whatever that means. I'm not like a woo-woo or spiritual person, but I just
Clearing
think
the
that
energy.
I'm clearing, way for bigger and better things so I can expand my life.
Yeah.
And I look at it like if I have my attention as a jar of marbles and I have 100 marbles, but I have 25 of them stuck on this thing I'm scared of, and every day I think about it, I would like to take those back. And so I need to go confront the thing that I'm scared of in order to get those marbles back and have my full attention to do the things that I actually want to do and actually enjoy doing.
Yeah. When was the time when you started to make like some serious money? How old were you when you started to like make, because I know you guys had no money at one point.
Yeah.
I think you might have slept in like your guys' car or something, or was like, didn't you guys sleep in a car for a bit?
So we slept at a client's house, and then we stayed at my parents' house.
Okay, cool. Maybe he slept in his car at one point. I can't remember if he said that, but.
And we had a car for sure.
Okay, anyways. But there's a point in your life where you weren't making any money.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was a point in your life where you started to make some money and then a lot more money.
Yeah.
Did you always feel like you were worthy and deserving of making money?
No.
When did that start to change? That you felt like, I'm worthy of making money?
I don't think I'm worthy of making money.
Still? You don't think you're worthy?
I don't think anybody has to be worthy to make money.
Do you feel like you're deserving of making the money that you have, or the money that you have now, you're worthy of having it?
I am a capable steward of the money.
I think that's worthy then.
Yeah, I guess I just don't use that word very much because
Okay.
I think that what I used to think is I had to be this amazing. I honestly, this sounds bad, and I actually do think I'm a good person, but I've just seen so many people that do make money that aren't the best people. Now, do they usually lose it? Yes. But I do think people are capable of making money without, like, quote, being worthy of it. I think that where it bites you in the butt for most people is that if you know that you're not using the money for good or you're not doing something good with it, you are less likely to make more because you have this conflict internally. You know, usually you say one thing externally, you are something different internally. You know what I mean? But for me, it was, I didn't believe that I was capable of making money.
Really?
No,
What shifted for you to believe you were capable of making money?
I made money. I'm not kidding. So like, I'm actually, for me, it started with sales, which was like, until I made a sale myself, like my first, it was a personal training sale. I made a personal training sale and it was a $1,300 package. And I was like, I'm 21 and I just got $1,300
Wow.
from words that came out of my mouth to somebody. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, I don't need to worry about money again. I know how to make money. And it was such an empowering feeling. But I think that continued at each level, right? And so it's like, okay, I know how to make $1,300. Do I know how to make $20,000? Do I know how to make $50,000? Do I know? And so at each time, I didn't believe that I was able to until I did. But I think that I took the action. There's a term that I think Stephen Hayes coined, which is like acting the opposite. It's like if you want to be the opposite of what you are today, act the opposite first, right? And so I have just continued to use that time and time again, which is like if I want to be something, I don't need to believe that I am first, and I don't need to think it because that I have a very hard time doing, but I can act as though I am the thing and then work my way into it. And so, you know, when we first started really making a lot of money, I kept feeling like, where's the gotcha. You know what I mean? Like I was like
when's it all going away or stopping?
Yeah. I remember thinking that was like next. Like, okay, I figured out how to do it. Like, but now it's definitely gonna stop, right? Like, when am I gonna? I probably don't know how to use the money. I probably don't know where to put the money. I probably don't know how to, you know, make sure the money doesn't like disappear because I didn't understand anything about getting returns. And so, for me, it was very much I didn't believe it until it occurred. And
So you needed to
now
see it in order to believe it.
I needed to do it. Yeah.
Do it and then see the results of doing it.
Yeah, because I think it's like, it's a skill. And so, do you have confidence before you have the skill? I don't usually feel confident until I'm competent. And so until I was competent, which I verified, but like, I learned to be competent at making money, and the measuring stick is I make more money. So it's like, now I'm competent, now I see I've made more money, confidence comes. So it's like the experience built the competence, which then led to the confidence for me. And then,
What would shake your confidence today? Like if you lost a bunch of money, or if people you hired stole money from you and then you had to fire them over and over again, or if bad things happened in business or whatever, like would it shake your confidence or would it not affect you?
I'm educated enough now to know that you have to lose money to make money. So like, you know, it's so funny because me and Alex were talking yesterday about something, and he's counting up every loss we've had this year, and I was like,
But look at all the gains.
yeah. I'm so much like when it comes to money, I'm like I'm just like, that's the cost of it. The cost of making money is that you're going to lose some. So it's like, for me, it's like if I want to make $100 million, I'm going to lose 10 million. If I want to make $1 billion, I'm probably going to lose 50, 100 million. I don't know. Now that could be in lost opportunity. That could have been in making the wrong decision. That could be in the value of a company. But I've just seen that there's a huge correlation with how much you're willing to lose with how much you're willing to gain. Because if you're constantly saying, I don't want to lose, that's where your mind's focused. Rather than, I want to make more. I want to expand. So it's like, yes, I want to make sure that I'm not being stupid with my money. But I don't want to be so focused on not losing money that I'm not I'm not opening myself up to the opportunity to make more. And so I actually think if I lose money now, like I'll give you an example, invested in a company 2 years ago, bad investment. So that was like, close to $10 million just down the drain.
Gone.
Yeah.
Light on fire.
Yeah. And I'm just like, this company is not what I thought it was. I wish I did not buy it. It is a thorn in my side.
Plus time, energy.
Yeah.
Pulling you away from other things.
Yeah. And there's not much you can do once you've bought majority of a company. So it's a tough situation. And every time I'm reminded, I'm like, I don't want to think about it. Right. But I'm like, I had to pay the price of losing there to get this huge win over here. And I just look at it like that because the same decision-making principles I used to purchase that company, I also used to purchase this one. And this one is crushing it. And so it's like, sometimes I think in making money, the decision-making formula that we use to make money is good, but sometimes the outcome is still not. It's just like hiring people. Sometimes you're going to miss.
The process stays the same, or maybe you learn a lesson from the process of why it didn't work, and you tweak it for the next process, you upgrade the process. But the outcome's not always going to be what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
because you could have the same process and one company crush and the other one go bankrupt, right?
Yeah, and
because you
there's
can't
so many
control
variables.
human factors, or if the CEO quits or whatever it is, like the product doesn't work anymore or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, there's when I'm talking to people and I'm like, yes, they're like, how do I do this in a company? I'm like, well, this, that, and they're like, do I need to understand finance like that? I'm like, yeah, I understand finance, IT, marketing, sales, CS, this, like all of it. Same goes for investing, and there's more. And so there's so many things that could go wrong that, it would behoove me to say, I made one bad investment, I should try again, And so I think one thing that I've always been very good at is like, I'm very patient. I can lose, but I'm pretty spot on at like, where did I fail in execution? I can tell if it's an execution or a strategy issue. And so if I've done an investment and I'm like, it was just this one thing, and I'm like, I want to try it again because I know that the strategy is right. It was just lost in execution.
Yes.
But you're not going to learn that unless you try again.
what is the biggest lesson you've learned about winning so much over the last couple of years that you didn't expect you would learn?
Winning never feels good in the moment. Like, I think everyone always asks me, they're like, it's funny, when we were growing our first business, people would come to me and they would say, congratulations, like you've had such fast growth. And I remember I would have this internal like, have I? Because it's been so painful. And I think that the reason that winning's not for everybody is because winning is hard and because winning is painful. And the entire process up until you win, you're doing hard things over and over and over again. And so you're constantly in the state of discomfort. That's also why you win, is because you're willing to put yourself into that state. And so, upon selling our first business, I saw a lot of people, and I saw that they didn't have a plan for what they were going to do next. And a lot of people who sold their first business, they were satiated with that sale. They were comfortable enough with whatever it brought them that then they didn't feel like they had to push themselves again. And I never wanted to be that person, because I'm like, I'm not even 30. I was 29 when we sold our business. Wow. 29, and I already had a multi-$100 million net worth. And I'm like, people are like, you're going to take time off. You can do it. And I was like, no. What am I going to... I don't really believe in retirement per se, like in the traditional sense. I was like, no, I need to do something else. And so what I realized was the reason that so many people aren't able to win again is because they're not willing to put themselves back into that place that they had to win the first time.
That pain, that discomfort.
The pain. And I think that you assume that it's going to be easier the second time. The thing is, and there's a lot of studies done on this, which is like, it's not easier. You just know what to expect and you have more skills. That doesn't mean it feels easier the second time. And I will say, in doing and scaling very quickly acquisition.com, it doesn't feel easier. I just know what to do this time. And what I've had to do in order to keep winning is I've had to learn to love the process of being uncomfortable. And I've always wanted that for myself, because growing up, I think, I was in a small town. Everyone stays there. You become a bartender, a nurse, a teacher at the local college, whatever. And I just looked, and everyone's always remaining in their comfort zone. And I was like, I have to get out of that. And so like at a very young age, I left home early. I moved across the country. I said, I never want to be that. I don't want my life to be that. I want to die with so much potential left inside of me. And so for me, I think what's made it easy to keep winning and being uncomfortable is the fact that it's not about the business, not about making hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, it's like at some point, like, I don't even spend the money, you know, I barely do now. And so what it is about though, is like, how can I get to the end of my life knowing that I haven't left potential on the table? And that's what I always tie it to, which is like, it's not about the money. It's about, what does Leila look like? Who is that person that's able to do these things? I would like to meet her one day, but if I don't get myself to do these things that are uncomfortable, then that person, I'm never going to meet her.
What are the things that your future self has that you don't have right now? Or what is she able to overcome or create or generate?
You know, I think what I've recognized is that what's worked for me in many ways and in so many situations is I'm very good at structure. I build literal infrastructure of a business. And in order to do that, it's good to have order of things. I always say, like, I manage chaos. I don't stop chaos. I let it happen, but I manage chaos. I even say, like, I am a wrangler of chaos. That's what I like tell myself. But there's times when trying to put structure in place actually doesn't help. And instead, I've had to really lean into being flexible rather than rigid. And so my journey has been one of becoming a more flexible person. Because I heard this quote one time and it was like, the most flexible system always wins. And I realized that what would be like my kryptonite was also what my strength was, which was like putting order in place. So it helped me build my first business and sell it so successfully, as there was so much order in there. It also can cripple you, because when something unexpected happens, when this happens, like, it just took me a little longer to adjust than I would like. And I want to be able to quickly adjust. And so it's been this constant journey of being able to not react when something unexpected happens, but respond very thoughtfully and always ask myself, how can I turn this challenge into an opportunity? How can I respect myself more by overcoming this challenge, not less? And that's always led me to making the right decision. But it's been the hardest thing for me, because I like to have structure. I like to have control, and it helps me in a lot of ways. It also doesn't help me in a lot of ways. And so she is much more flexible.
So she learns to become more flexible than you are today.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, I've recognized, like, the people I surround myself with, what do they have that I really like and admire? I often surround myself with people who aren't like me, but they're actually opposite of me in many ways. And one of those biggest things is more spontaneous and more flexible.
Play, fun.
Yeah. It's almost like I get to live that out through the people around me.
When you have losses and wins and negative thoughts creep up, how do you start to reframe those negative thoughts to actually fuel you for success in the future rather than limit you?
I try to, one, I expect them.
Negative thoughts.
Negative thoughts, doubts, doubting myself, negative.
How often do you have negative thoughts?
More often than positive ones.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are these negative thoughts that you have? What are they
Oh my God,
thinking, or what are you thinking and saying in your mind?
Like, you're not as good as you think you are. You're actually really stupid. You don't work as hard as you think you do. Maybe it's all going to fail. People don't like you. Your team doesn't believe in you. You know, I'll make up so many stories in my brain.
Really?
Yeah.
And how frequent are those stories?
Daily.
Really?
Yeah. But
So how do you use them then to get the success you want?
I think I've learned to detach from my thoughts. So, you know, I think for a long time trying to suppress them or not focus on them did not help me. But detaching from them and being able to look at them as sentences in my mind rather than commands or facts has helped me understand that if I'm trying to do anything significant with my life, I'm going to have negative thoughts come up. If I'm trying to do anything new, I'm going to have negative thoughts come up, because anything new, your brain sees as a threat. And so it's going to say, oh, that's scary and new, even if it's not bad. It's just new and unknown. And so we want to prevent you from doing it. So let's put these doubtful thoughts in here so that she doesn't do it, because that could risk something. So I just expect it as part of the process, and I don't try to make it go away. I just try to detach from them enough to just take successful actions. And that is where I focus the most, which is like, I just need to be able to detach from my thoughts enough that I can just follow the plan that I had. And that's honestly it. I don't even try to I mean, yes, I can reframe them. I would say like can refute them. Sometimes I look at it like almost like the thought is on trial. Like, show me the evidence in either direction, which is like, okay, cool. Evidence that it could be true, evidence that it could be false. But both of these things are trying to create certainty. You know what I mean? Like, we want certainty that our negative thoughts aren't true. But what if they are? Life, like, certainty is not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. And so for me, it's like, I actually have even given up trying to find the evidence for a thought being true or not. I'm just like, you have no idea. Maybe it is, and maybe the worst thing ever happens. You're not going to know unless you go forward anyways.
And it's almost like, is this a helpful thought in helping me accomplish my goals?
Right. Like, is it true?
Is it useful?
I don't know, maybe, but is it useful? No. Well, then I'm not going to think about it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What would you say then is the biggest thing that is holding back young female entrepreneurs today?
Female specifically? You know, I've never identified as a female entrepreneur. I've just identified as actually a business person.
You know what's funny? I wasn't even going to say female because I knew you were going to say this. I swear to God, I wasn't going to say this. But I'm thinking the only reason I said female, and it's so funny you said that, because the only reason I'm thinking that is because I feel like some women are going to say that they really relate to you and how you worry about how people judge you or something, right?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, is that the thing that females have over male entrepreneurs? Because I don't think Alex is thinking about, oh, people judge the way I look. I don't think he's worried about that in running a business. You know what I mean? So I knew you were going to say this, but I feel like women need to know, or I feel like you would have a pulse on what maybe women are experiencing and what's holding them back from being a successful entrepreneur or from the ability to make more money or whatever it might be. So I'm glad you said that in response, but hopefully you have another answer.
I do. Yeah. So I was going somewhere with it, don't worry.
Okay. So the biggest thing that's holding female entrepreneurs back?
I think the way I viewed it is when I say I've never identified as a female entrepreneur, it's because I don't find it useful. Because then I think of all the reasons why I should act differently than a male entrepreneur and why I should think that the rules of money and business should apply differently to me. And I have played by the rules that I've just seen make people successful, whether they're a man or a woman. And so that's been really helpful for me. But what I think holds a lot of women back is I think that women have traditionally been conditioned by society to be valued for other things, not making money. And I don't think that's bad. I also don't think it's bad if you want to make money. But I do think that, like, one thing that I will never be able to rid myself of is that I am valued for also how I look. If I looked like a troll, I do not think Alex would marry me. For real. I don't think he would.
And that's not bad. If he doesn't, it's not a bad thing.
Women, if you look at the most popular women in the world, they're usually very attractive. A lot of them. Their women can literally gain status through just being attractive and nothing else, right? I'm sure men can too, but many more men are valued for money and ability to produce. And so I think there's, first off, women have, if they want to make more money and build a business, they also have other things that take their attention. They've been conditioned to also value these things and work to make these things better in their life. And I get that. The second piece to it is when it comes to what I think holds women back is the fear of being put into one of these boxes that I think like pop culture now does, right? It's either like, you're either like I don't know, because I'm not as connected in pop culture because I don't watch much, but I see it's like a lot of women that are like, I'm a single female entrepreneur, like making money on my own, like F guys. Then I see like, I'm a businesswoman, I'm all about my business and I'm this and I'm that. Or then I see like, I'm a traditional wife and I have kids and I stay home. And it's like, I just say like, what if you could just say you're an and, not an or? You don't need to be this or that or that. You could be and. I love to cook for my husband. I also like to run a company that's going to be worth $1 billion next year. Can I not make him cookies and run $1 billion company?
Right.
And I want to do both. And I think that I used to think that I had to pick between those things, between being a good wife, between being, between my health and in shape and liking to do hair and makeup, and between doing business. And that actually, when in the beginning, when I thought that I had to sacrifice being a good wife and, caring about what I looked like, it made me worse at business because I was suppressing these other pieces of my life that I actually do value. And I said, why am I suppressing those things? And I said, well, because I'm afraid that men are going to judge me for it. Well, then screw it. Let them judge me. And I do get judged all the time. And I'm okay with it. It's okay if people don't understand me. It's okay if they don't understand my actual capabilities, what I actually do, if they think I'm all these things. I know who I am. And on a daily basis, I'm with myself at the end of the day. And so as long as I'm living my life in accordance with things I value, I think that most women just believe that they have to fit in a box of one of these things. You're either this girl, this girl, this girl, or this girl that fits in these boxes that you see on social media. It's like, you could be a little bit of all those things. It's like, who do you want to be? And I think for me, I've learned I don't fit in a box. And I think a lot of people think I'm one thing or another, or they feel confused. And that's okay.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So what? It doesn't change my life.
Sure. From your experience then, from the challenges you had growing up to where you are now, what would you say are 3 truths that young women need to know about what's holding them back in life in general?
I think that young women need to, the main thing holding them back is their relationship with their emotions.
Really?
Yes. Think about all the things people say to women about their emotions. Like, oh yeah, I mean, let's just be real. They're like, you're on your period. Of course you're emotional and mean to people. And it's like, we actually give ourselves like a 7-day pass to be an emotional wreck. Actually, my life changed when I stopped doing that. So it's like the first thing I think is, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you cannot regulate your emotions just like anybody else. Is it harder? Yes, but then that means you have the chance to get more skills. You will be more skilled than the men at regulating your emotions if you learn how to regulate them. And so for me, I think like learning to manage your emotions and having a good relationship with them, not allowing them to dictate your life and how you act and become excuses for why you act out in certain ways. Like a lot of women, you see all the memes and things out there. It's like, yeah, be crazy. It's like, yeah, funny, but also like not funny. Like for me to achieve the goals that I have in life and in business, I can't have my employees be like, yeah, be acting crazy today.
Right. They need to respect you and need to, yeah.
And nobody wants an unstable leader. So like for women to lead, it's very hard to be unstable. Where's instability come from? Inability to regulate your emotions. And so I think that's the first thing is don't listen to what people say about how you just can't because of your hormones and because of this, because you can, it just will be harder.
But what if, Leila, that people are saying, well, that seems very unapproachable because my body is, expressing itself to me, or I just feel like the world is throwing so much chaos at me that it's impossible to regulate emotions. She's out of touch. She's got money. She's got people that help her with things. I don't have that help or that money. So it's exhausting to regulate emotions. What would you say to that?
It is harder for some people than others. It might be harder for women. It might be harder when you have less resources. It is not impossible. You have less skills. I think it is harder the less skilled you are. Some people are incredibly skilled and they've learned it they had great frames growing up. They had great mothers. They had great fathers to look up to. Some people didn't. And so for those people, it's harder. It's more exhausting. But what would you rather have? A life that is perpetually capped by the fact that you can't regulate your emotions? Or a year of learning that is exhausting, but at the end of it, you realize you can achieve your dreams because you learned how to do this.
You become someone new.
Yeah.
In that process,
Yeah, and I didn't have all the resources I have now when I was learning this. And by the way, money doesn't help you learn how to regulate your emotions.
No.
I mean, once you have money, you've got lawsuits, you've got people trying to take your money, you've got people trying to steal your money. I mean, it's just same problems, they just look different.
And bigger.
Yeah. And so
that's the first truth that you'd say.
Yeah, that's the first truth I would say.
What's the second thing that holds women back?
Fear of judgment. I think so many women, I met with, when I first started making content, I met with a creator, I'll just say, somebody who quite a famous person who had a wife who also made content in the space. And I said, do you have any advice for me? Because I want to make content because I think that it would help me get the right people on my team. I think that it's something I've wanted to do. It's like, I want to help people avoid the things that I have learned. But what would you say? And this person and one other person that were very large male influencers said the same thing. They were like, you just can't care so much how you look. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're both like, you know what stopped my wife is she just won't be recorded without any makeup on. And I was like, huh. And so, you know, I've thought about that and I really recognize it because like I like to have my hair and makeup done, but I'm not going to make it a necessity to get things done. Like we do vlogging where it's like, you know, it's like they're vlogging me and I'm like, yeah, I do not look good in that vlog. And they
You still judge
too.
yourself though. You're still
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right. But the thing that I've realized is if I act the opposite of that, so if I allow people to capture me without makeup, if I don't wear makeup to work every day, if I don't do my hair and look perfect every day, then the thoughts of judgment start to get less loud. And so I think for a lot of women, we're so fearful of being judged for not upholding the standards that society puts on us. And it's not the standards that are the problem, it's the fear of the standards and the judgment that we put on ourselves about them. You know, men also have standards that they fear to fail or fear that they're not living up to. Everyone does. I think that just for women, the ones that hold them back are the ones that I look at and I just say, like, is it making it harder or easier for me to achieve my goals if I judge myself for this? And for me, usually it makes it harder to achieve my goals if I'm judging myself every moment that I'm on camera, every moment that I'm making content, because I see those women, it's like they can put out a lot less. And when you put out a lot less content and you're not able to show up in front of your team unless you look a certain way and you do all these things, well, then you get less practice at doing that thing. And I think it just all stems from judgment because, I mean, you would be shocked at the amount of people that are just afraid to be on camera because they're not the exact weight that they want. They don't look like a thin model. They don't look like, you know, what beauty standards are today. And that actually stops women from being in business, showing up the way they want, you know, speaking on stages, doing podcasts, making content. It's this fear of judgment.
Yeah.
And I think that before you change, because maybe it is good if you lose weight. Maybe it is good if you, you know, learn this, that. But that is separate from the fear of judgment of others for not being perfect all the time.
Right. And the third thing?
Third truth for women. You know, I think that it's probably learning that perfect is an impossible task. And in trying to be perfect, you're probably much less likable. You know, I think for a long time, I just tried to be what everybody else wanted me to be.
Really?
To be perfect in the eyes of everyone. Like, how can I be the perfect leader? How can I be the perfect wife? How can I be the perfect boss? How can I be the perfect friend? How can I be the perfect daughter? And that led me to be miserable, which actually led me to be less liked by everybody. Because I was just trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be, rather than what I wanted to be.
Right. You weren't being authentic to yourself.
No. I'm like, maybe I am a bad daughter at times. I don't call my dad sometimes for weeks. Maybe I am a bad friend because I don't text my friends back for sometimes a week or two. And sometimes I'm like, I just don't feel like talking. Like, maybe I am a bad boss because today I canceled my meeting with somebody. Like, I think I've had to accept that at times we are all the opposite of what we want to be. And that's okay. And so, like, the best advice I could give anyone is, like, I call it the I am bad frame. I am bad. At times in certain circumstances. Like, at times in certain circumstances, I am bad at something. Or I am a bad wife, a bad boss, a bad friend. And? You know? Mm-hmm. And I think for a long time, even just saying I'm a bad boss, like and visceral reaction, because I was just like, I put so much pressure on myself to be the perfect boss. But the reality is that if you want to be great at anything, you're going to be imperfect, judged, and disliked at times.
Yeah.
And I think specifically for women, especially because I think there's a desire to please people, that is very hard for women specifically.
Mm-hmm. Let's say you got $1 billion in the bank, cash in the bank. What is the best use of that money for you? What will bring you the most joy and the greatest impact if you're able to generate that much money in the bank?
You know, I don't know if it would bring me the most joy. I wouldn't say happiness, but I would like to make the communities a better place. I'd like to make the world like more than just business, you know? And I think if I had $1 billion cash in the bank, there's a lot that I could do to not just make business better, but make the environment in which we do business better. which errs into a side that I don't wish to get into, but at some point, you can't really fight that there are systems beyond your control, like politics and the community and the government. And I would love to help make that entire system better so that things are better, not just for business owners, but for people who are just like every day working a 9-to-5 job. Because I love helping people build great businesses, and I love building a great business and creating a place where people love to work. I also just like helping people in general. And so at some point, there was a moment probably about 6 months ago where I was sitting on the couch with Alex, and it was like, well, what happens after this, a decade from now? And
When you've accomplished all these big goals.
right. And I was like, it like scares me to say it, but like I would like to help more than we help now. And what that looks like to me is in this way, which terrifies me. But I also just like look at it, I'm like, if I have these skills in life to be able to do these things and create this amount of, and help people to this degree, then I feel like a responsibility to do something bigger with it, because I know that the same skills apply to do things, to build great communities, to build great schools, hospitals, like all those things.
Yeah.
And that is something that I would, if I were to like, I look at it like I want to go down like just like beaten, just like a disgusting corpse.
Fully used up.
Yeah, I would like to go down knowing that I made the world better, even beyond business. And that is a way that I think, helping the communities, like building communities.
Yeah.
I think that's how we do it. I look at it like we're so isolated now, especially like in America. It's like people are so isolated. It's like the sense of community, even, having a fully remote company to going in person, having a headquarters, having this huge building, it has made my quality of life so much higher. And many of the people in it. And I see that and I'm like, how do we create more of that?
Yeah. More community. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you, hypothetical scenario, if you were able to be a psychologist, detached from yourself, but you were looking at yourself as a psychologist, and you were able to analyze your entire life since you know you, everything you've been through, all the ups and downs, every thought, every emotion, every heartbreak, every joy, and you're the psychologist, what would you say are the three main things that have built you into becoming the successful person that you are? What are the drivers?
What drives? I would say that she has learned to channel her obsession into something healthy. It's the first one, because I'm very obsessive. I think a lot of people, like, you could consider that in many ways a disorder, and I've been diagnosed as such. But I look at it as a superpower. And I'm obsessed about things that make my life and other people's lives better. Whereas it may have used to be things that were not productive. I would say that's the first one. I would say the second one is resilient. I think my ability to bounce back after something really, really bad happens is, like, it doesn't take me long. And it continues to get shorter and shorter. So I'd say resilience is the second one. Like, can just fail epically, and I can just focus on, like, let's just try again. I'm not going to think about the failure and how bad it hurt and all that. Like, I'm just going to follow the plan and do it again. And I would say the third one is that I'm smart enough to figure out how to make things work, but dumb enough to try things. Like, I actually have a decent amount of friends who are incredibly intelligent. I do not put myself in that camp. And they're so intelligent that they paralyze themselves. I think I'm just smart enough to make things work, but not too smart to not try.
And gullible enough to be like, I can make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, yes, I would say those are probably the three things. If that made any sense.
What's the question you wish more people asked you that they never ask?
I think just in general, I've enjoyed this conversation, but many conversations that I have when people ask me questions, they ask me about my relationship with Alex and about, being a wife to him and what's he like and I love my husband and I love him as a business partner, but I genuinely have more interest talking about business, and self-development and personal development than I do what Alex eats for lunch. And so, something that I was talking about yesterday, because my assistants, they're like, hey, this podcast you went on, I went on a podcast like a week ago. And it's like, they were like, what's it like being with Alex? And I was like, is this all you think I have to offer? You know? And so then I was like, I wish more people would ask me how to build what I've built and how to become a person who can build it. And so I think like very much in line with what you've asked me today, as well as like, I'm happy to get into like tactical things as well. More so because I think that that's what I think I offer that's most valuable to the world and I'm most interested in talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
So you wish people would ask less about Alex and more about you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've talked about it, which is like, unless I decide to build a company completely autonomously on my own, I don't think that people are going to know, they're going to see me as capable of doing what I've done, and I'm okay with that. I also don't want to build a company of my own. I think that we have what we have because we created it together, and we're both really exceptional at what we do. So why would I do that? Just because I want people to see me a certain way?
Right.
It's like, I don't want to do that, you know? So, you know, he's like my number one supporter. And he is like, yeah, why are people asking you this? Just tell them it's a waste. He's like, I would like you to just snap back in these interviews and just be like, can you stop asking me about mine? He said something inappropriate. But
It's all good.
yeah. So I think that's something that it's like funny because I think you always think you're getting over it. Because, you know, I wasn't on social media for so long. I was internal. He's very well spoken, very articulate. He looks how he looks. He's so good at all these things. He's very smart. And so it's like, okay, what are you, a secretary? And it's like in the beginning, it actually was that, right? And now it's come very far, but it's still, you know, I think people are like, oh, she must love talking about what it's like to be married to him. Like, well, no, I'm just married to him. But like, I love business. I love personal development. I love talking about relationships. But like, what does somebody eat for lunch? And
Right.
You know, it's like, I'm good.
Yeah. What's he like in the gym? Yeah. What's he doing?
Yeah. I'm just like, this isn't valuable.
What's the, you know, not to speak about him, but I just did interview him before you. He says he
Trust
has.
you, Lewis.
He says he has this more of a reference to what he's talked about. He has a thing called the Solomon paradox or whatever, where he has a conversation with himself at 85. He said it's been about 5 times this year he's had this conversation with his 85-year-old hypothetical self.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a conversation with your older self and ask, what do I need to do or what lesson do I need to learn right now to help me get to where I want to be at 85?
Yeah. I would say that it's less my older self, but more I have similar prompts. And I think the question that I ask most of the time is, I have 2 questions. One is, well, okay, I have 3. I'll give you 2 questions in a frame. The 2 questions are, what would I need to do to respect myself more coming out of this situation? Because for me, it's like, if I don't have the utmost respect for myself, I don't think I can do anything I've done in business. I don't think I can show up here. I don't think I can show up for my team. I don't think I can show up for my husband. I have to respect myself first and foremost. That's my priority. The second is, which move will make it easier for me to achieve my goals? Like, I'm always thinking, how do I make it easier to achieve my goals? How do I make it easier? Like, it's hard enough to achieve big goals. How do I make it easier? So those are the 2 questions. And then the prompt that I have is not the Solomon's. It's actually, I look at it like I have my values, right? And I look at my values as they are my board of directors. And so every time that I'm presented with a decision or a situation, it's not what do I want to do? It's not what do I feel like doing? But it's what decision, what action is approved by your board of directors. And those board of directors are my values.
It's almost like, what do your values demand of you doing?
Yes. And I'm like, if there's one thing that I actually really feel confident in, well, there's 2 things. One, I'm honest, like to a fault. I cannot lie. The second is that I absolutely make decisions by my values. It can be gut wrenching. It can be, I'm up all night sweating. It can be, but I will make decisions based on my values. And that visual has helped me so many times, especially in business, because you know, there's so many deals, for example, that come across the table. And it's like, man, this company is killing it. But I'm like, this founder just conflicts
Something's off.
my values. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to give this person money.
When did you discover your values, and what are those core values for you now?
You know, it's funny. I discovered those values to myself I'm going to say it was when we were selling our first company, and I took a lot of time to think about like, what are my values, right? And I made it easy by turning those into my company values, because I think that it's so silly that we have different values for a company than we would for ourselves. But it's like, wouldn't you want the values of the company to be the values of the founder? And so the first one's sincere candor, which is like being honest. The second one is unimpeachable character, being someone that people are proud to associate with on and off the field. Meaning for me, like my personal life and my business life are in order. Like me, like behind the scenes, like doing anything crazy. Like if I'm going to do something crazy behind the scenes, I have to be okay with showing everybody as well. Like I just can't, I'm not going to hide stuff. But I don't do anything crazy because I would like to live in a way that is unimpeachable. And then the third one is competitive greatness.
Competitive greatness.
Competitive greatness. I got that from John Wooden. I was a huge fan of the Pyramid of Success. I don't know, I'm guessing.
Of course, yeah.
And that is, you play the game for the love of the game and because you want to be excellent, not because you want the outcome. And so it's really like falling in love with the process. And so it's like every time I make a decision, I'm like, does this align with my values? And I try to keep it just with those three, because if there's more than three, it's very difficult to make decisions quickly when you have like 17 values to filter.
Yeah. That's good.
You know what I mean?
Sincere candor, unimpeachable character, competitive greatness.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've got a couple final questions for you, Leila. This has been powerful. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I know you are a part of, I'm pretty sure you're a part of Alex's book launches too, right?
Yeah.
But you don't have a book yourself yet.
No.
Is that right? Are you thinking of writing one in the future, or you're not sure?
I really want to write one. I really don't
It's a lot of work though.
Yeah, I really don't think I have time.
Yeah, it's a
with
lot.
My current, I would
It's a
have to
lot.
change things significantly. But yeah, it's funny because people see book launch, they're like, wow, Alex's book launch. Like when he did it, I was like, I ran the entire
I'm assuming
thing.
you did. Yeah. Assuming you did it.
I literally I ran his book launch and I was our CFO and the CEO during his last launch. It was one of the most stressful. I actually gave up working out.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't know how to do all this. My CFO retired. I couldn't get a new one. I'm already being the CEO, which all the departments roll into me. And then he had nobody to run the book launch, and I didn't have time to get someone up to speed. So I said, I will do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it was so fun at the same time.
That's cool. Yeah, you guys crushed it. But are you a part of, did you help create the scaling course also, the free $100 million scaling course?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's both of us.
Okay, cool. Is that the main thing we'd want to send people to today? Or is there something else besides following you on social media everywhere that we'd want to send people to?
I would say the scaling course or my podcast is probably
Okay, cool.
fine. Yeah.
What's your podcast? Where can people find it?
Build, Leila Hormozi Build. I don't know. Is there a link?
Apple, Spotify, YouTube.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Leila Hormozi Build. That's where I would send it.
So people can check out your podcast, Build, with Leila Hormozi. Social media, Leila Hormozi, everywhere, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Acquisition.com, if people are interested in learning more about what you guys are up to there. That's where they can get the course also, the free $100 million scaling course.
Yeah, and there's...
Alex said there's a link there somewhere for it. Yeah. So I'm assuming it'll be on there at acquisition.com. Anything else we can do to be of service to you today?
No, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
I got two final questions. This is a question I ask everyone at the end. It's called the 3 truths. So imagine a hypothetical scenario. You get to live as long as you want on this earth, but it's the last day. And you get to accomplish all of your wildest dreams. These 10-year goals, and you blow through those, and the next 20 or 50-year goals, they all happen. But for whatever reason in this hypothetical scenario, all of your rants on your podcast are deleted. This content is gone. Every piece of content you've ever put out, we don't have access to. So we don't have your information anymore of what you've shared. But on the last day, Leila, you get to leave behind 3 lessons to the world. And this is all we would have to remember you by your content. What would those 3 lessons be for you?
The first would be success is available to anybody willing to take successful actions. You don't have to believe that you're going to be successful to have success. You just have to take action as if you will be. That would be the first one. The second one would be you don't ever really feel better, but you get better at feeling bad. I like to always say that I'm pretty dang good at feeling awful.
I like that.
I think it's a skill. And then the last one, think if you want to win big, you have to be willing to lose big. I think if you want to love big, you have to be willing to have your heart broken. And I think that if you want to have a really big life, you have to be willing to just take a lot of losses in general.
Yeah.
And that's just been the case in my life, which is just, it's so hard to access the really big expansion in life if you're not willing to lose.
Yeah.
In all scenarios.
These are good truths. I like those.
Oh, thank you.
Before I ask the final question, Leila, I want to acknowledge you for, I just don't think I've seen this type of content from you. And I want to acknowledge you for leaning into this and expressing in this way, because I think it's actually going to help a lot more people than you think. And whether millions of people watch this or hundreds of people, the people that watch and listen are going to be deeply impacted for a long time because of what you said today. Because I think people see you or perceive you in a certain way. And what you shared today, you showed people a different side of you. I think that is going to give people a lot more hope in order to overcome certain pains and challenges they have in their life right now. And hopefully just getting into taking the actions, the successful actions, so they can become more successful. And not allowing their negative thoughts or their emotions to consume their life and think they're not worthy of accomplishing what they want. So I want to acknowledge you for opening up and sharing, and also for being on your own journey at 32, I think you said. I think you were allowed to talk about your age, but at 32,
no.
Yeah, right? Just being able to navigate and manage it all. So
Thank you.
harmoniously, all the business, the judgment, the pressure, the media, it's like you got a lot going on, and seeing you navigate it imperfectly but smoothly at the same time is really beautiful to watch. So I acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see what you create, not only in the next few years, but these 10-year goals that I've got written down. So I want to keep in track and see what happens. My final question, Leila, what's your definition of greatness?
Leaving no potential on the table.
There you go. Thanks for being here, Leila. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got some value from this episode as much as I did. If you did, please do me a favor and click the like button right now. If you like this, it's going to help share it out into the YouTube world even more for us. Please click that like button and leave a comment below on your biggest takeaway, or if you have any questions that you want me to follow up with. Also, subscribe to our channel, because when you do, you help us book even bigger guests, and I want you to have the best information out there in the world, because that's what the School of Greatness is all about. So make sure to subscribe right now, like this video, share a comment below on your biggest takeaway. And also, I've got some big news, a new book. If you're looking to create financial freedom in your life and you want more abundance and you want a richer life, then make sure to check out my new book, Make Money Easy. I think you're going to love this, and it's all about creating financial freedom. The link is below in the description, or you can go to makemoneyeasybook.com and check it out.
He always would say, protect the thing that allows you to do only what you can do. And I think he might say it a few times, but it was basically protect the thing that allows you to do what you do every day. That one thing that only you can do, protect that thing. And those were two, like, they're very, very excellent.